Hi everyone, this is Juan from Market 360. We're very excited to have this session and thank you very much for taking your time today attending to this webinar. We'll be talking about Microsoft Teams 101 series. I would like to start with some introductions. I know that some of you already know us. We have been in communication for a few months and we're very excited to share that we are a Microsoft partner. We focus on cloud productivity, project management portfolio, and collaboration. Our main locations are in the United States, in Canada, and very excited to announce that we have our first office in Europe, in Barcelona. We are ex-Microsoft founders, and we mainly focus on digital transformation using Microsoft 360 platform regarding Teams, Microsoft Work Management, Power Platform. Today we're going to be focusing on Teams. However, we have like several webinars that we are preparing for Europe region that will be next week, so we'll be also sending by email to all of you. Our core focus is on customer success. We act as a trust advisor, and we are an extend Microsoft solution. Here with me, I have some of my colleagues, and I would like to introduce Mia. Please, Mia, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia Reed, and I'm a solutions architect with Marquee 360. So I work really closely with our clients on project online implementations, and then also with solutions that we use to incorporate Teams. So it's nice to meet you all. So what we're going to do today is focus this webinar on Microsoft Teams, of course, and what we're going to do is start out talking about the basics of Teams. We'll talk about what a team is, how to create a team, and then of course how to upgrade your team, how to invite more people to your team, how to add channels, and of course once you add the right people and you add the right channels there, we want to talk with you about how to collaborate with your team using those channels. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and it would be great if someone would let me know when you see that.
I can see, Mia.
All right, thanks.
Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Okay. So right now we're looking at Microsoft Teams on my computer. Before we jump in and we start to create teams, I wanted to give a little bit of background first. So the first thing is that we talk about the Microsoft Teams application, but I want to talk about what a team actually is in Microsoft Teams. On my screen now, on the left panel, you can see that I'm looking at my teams now. Each one of these teams is a collection of different people. And as we start to look at these teams, the place where these teams actually collaborate, that happens on these channels, okay? So every team will be created with a general channel. The team, remember, is a collection of people with a common interest or a common goal, and then the collaboration between the members of that team will happen on these different channels. So we'll come back to that and we'll start to create teams and channels together today. I also want to give you a little bit of orientation about Teams itself so that you can kind of find your way around the application. So right now, the first thing, if we kind of start at the top and work our way down, the first thing that we'll see is this search bar. The search bar is really nice because it's interactive. So instead of just searching for something and then seeing a list of results, we'll be able to interact with the results that pop up. So if I know that I'm part of a team that has the word park in it, like this Morris Park campus team, I'll type in the word park and I can see that matching team. And when I click on this team, clicking on that actually took me over to that team. So I'm automatically looking at that team in one of its channels right now. The other nice thing that you can do with the search bar is you can use it as a command bar. If you type in /, you get a quick menu of these quick options that you can use. So a lot of times if I'm going to step away for a minute, I'll change my status to be right back this way. And then of course, when I return, I'll switch it back. On the top bar here, the other thing I wanted to point out was just the settings bar, the profile menu here. This is where you can do fun things like change your picture and change the way that you view teams. There are different themes that you could look at. And then, of course, you can also set your status here. So that's it for the top bar. Another part that's going to be common for all of us in Teams will be this left menu that we use to navigate to different areas in Teams. So if you look along this left bar, you'll see that there are a couple of different buttons there. So as different things happen in Teams, those buttons will start to light up. So for example, the first one here is the activity button. Once somebody sends me a message or adds me to one of their teams, what I'll see is that I'll get that activity notification here. So someone just sent me a message, it looks like, and they mentioned me. So now I can see that they've mentioned me, and I can again use this menu to interact with it and click on different areas to see what the activity was. So if you ever want to call someone's attention, you can name them in a message, and then that'll light up on their activity icon. As we start to work our way down on this menu, the next one is the chat. And this is pretty nice too. As we start to chat with people, you may chat with different people in your organization. And in addition to chatting, you might also share documents. So you can see in this conversation here, I have a document that, that was shared with me, and another one just popped up. These documents that are shared in these chat conversations get saved in Teams. So if you look along the top here, you'll see these different tabs. And on the Files tab, the documents that were shared in the chat are actually stored here. And this is great because it gives us a way to collaborate on these documents from within Teams. This ellipses menu has options to edit this document in Teams, in the desktop application, or also in the browser. So that makes it really easy to work together. It also could happen that while we're chatting with somebody, we decide that we need to add video or add a call. So there are options to that right at the top here. And of course, we might need to add another user, so there's an option to do that too. The next, if we go back over to the left menu, the next icon down is the Teams icon. And we're going to revisit this later on because that's going to be our main topic for today. So I'll come back to the Teams part. There's also a calendar in Teams, and the way this is set up for our organization is that this calendar syncs with your Outlook calendar. So everything that we're seeing here, these are all the meetings I have on my Outlook calendar, and they're displaying here in Teams. From here, I can also create a new meeting, much like I would in Outlook. So if I schedule a meeting, you can see that I can give it a title. I can use the scheduling assistant, just like we have in Outlook. And then that way I can choose who to add and then compare schedules to see when we're all available. In the details area, I can set the date and time for our meeting. I can set a recurrence pattern. One thing that takes this one level above Outlook is that here I have the ability to add a channel. So we talked about teams earlier and that each team has at least one channel. Here I can actually choose to tag a channel in a team or in a meeting. And we'll come back and look at that more later on when we actually create our team. But this is a great way to involve the team automatically in any meetings that you set up. Next down on the left menu is the calls button. And here, I can see some of my contacts here. I can see my history. And then if someone leaves me a voicemail, I can see a record of that here. Clicking on that, I have the option to listen to that voicemail or read the transcription of that voicemail. And then finally, the last button here is related to files. So recent files that I've worked on, I can see listed here. And of course, you can sort these. You can use that ellipses button here also to edit these files too. And then in case you're not aware, multiple people can work on these files at once. So anybody that I share a file with, whoever has access to that file is going to be able to go in there and make edits. All right. There's an ellipses here so that you can add more buttons. Okay, so if you wanted to add OneNote, if you're a frequent user of that, you could add that. We'll talk about some of these in future webinars, so stay tuned for that. And then finally, at the bottom of this left menu, I do want to show you the Help button. This is really useful, especially when you're getting started. They have a variety of training topics and also training videos, which are short and really easy to digest. And then there's also a What's New area. There are a lot of changes happening with Teams and improvements. So What's New kind of summarizes those for you. All right, so that was kind of a basic orientation to Teams, just to kind of look around a little bit and see what we've got here. when you're ready to start working with teams, especially if you're just starting out, you can imagine that you might not have teams that you already belong to, like I have here. In that case, what you might want to do is create a team or join an existing team. And if we look at the bottom of this Teams panel, we'll see this link here to join or create a team. I'm going to click on that. And we've got a couple of options here, but it's really kind of straightforward. We could create a new team if we want to. The other thing that we could do, if there's a person that owns a team, they can generate a code and then share that code with us. We can then use that code to enter here and join that person's team. If we don't have a team code and the team that we want to join is public, it will be listed here for you. So right now it looks like there's only one public team that I'm not already a part of. So I could click join team to then join that team and have it listed on my list of teams over here. So again, when we create this team, there are a couple of different steps, and that's what we're about to walk through. We'll create the team. We'll add channels if we want to, and then we'll add people to work on that team with us. Just as a reminder, I'm going to show you one of these teams now, the Adopt Office 365 team. This team has a variety of channels. So the team is the group of people that have this interest in adopting Office 365, and then those people will collaborate on these different channels. Okay, in this case, we've got the general channel, but then we also have a channel that's dedicated to the calendar and our timeline, and then some that are, and one that's dedicated to announcements. So we're going to build a team and add it to our list over here on the left. So I'm going to click on Create Team. There are a couple of different options here. First, we can build a team from scratch. All right, we can start with nothing and kind of build it from the ground up. That's what we're going to select. So we'll come back to that option. I can also build a team from an existing group. So let's say that I have a team that I like the Adopt Office 365 team. Let's say that that was the team that we used in 2020, but in 2021, we're going to form a team to adopt Microsoft Project Online, for example. What I could do is choose to create this team from that existing team. And what that would do is it would give me the chance to copy everything that I set up for that other team. So I can choose here, the channels are already selected to copy over, but I can choose if I'm going to copy over the settings and the apps and the members too. I'm going to go back here. And I think this is nice and comforting to know in the beginning when you're looking at creating teams. There are all these options here to explore. When you choose one, there's going to be that back button, so you can kind of back out and feel free to look around and see what your options are. There are also some really great templates that come with teams. So if I'm going to choose a template, I can go back to this Adopt Office 365, and you may notice these channels are the same channels I had in my Adopt Office 365 team, and that's because I created that team based on this template. So this is telling me that this template includes these channels and also these apps. All right. Instead of recreating this team, I'm going to go back and we're going to create a team from scratch. So I can make this team public or private. Remember, if it's public, then anybody will be able to click that join team link and then join my public team. If it's private, I'll need to give permission for people to join. We'll create a public team. We'll give our team a name. And it's optional to give your team a description. And then you just click create. In a couple of seconds, we'll see that this team is created. So creating a team is pretty simple. One thing that you should know kind of ahead of time is that you don't have to have all of the details of your team ironed out this early on. So right now we've just created the team. It's asking us now if we want to start to add members to this team. So I might have a member or two that I'm ready to add. So I'll add one to this team. And you can see it's as simple as just typing in the name and clicking the add button. Here, I'll see one's name there and I'll have an option to update him to be either a member or a co-owner of this team. I'm going to make you a co-owner of this team with me. And then I'll go ahead and close here. If I wasn't ready to add anybody else to that team yet, that's perfectly fine because we have plenty more opportunity to do that. So we'll look at the left side here and we'll see our list of teams. So remember, these are all the teams that I belong to. There are a couple things that I want to show you. Once you start to belong to a couple of different teams, or once you start to own a bunch of different teams, one of the things you'll want to make sure is that you can easily find that team. So you can look on this left panel and see I like to keep my teams in alphabetical order. So to do that, what you can do is just simply drag and drop the team name and then drop it where you'd like it to be located. Another thing that I like to do sometimes is if there is a team that I'm working on pretty often, I might drag that all the way to the top so that I can quickly access it. One other thing when it comes to organizing your teams is that it's possible to hide a team. Sometimes I'll get added to a team and maybe the team is going to be working together for a couple of months or even a year. And my portion of that might come at the beginning of that team, of that process, or it might come at the end. For the part that I'm not really active on that, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll hide that team. So on this ellipses menu, we'll talk about more of these options later on, but there's an option to hide this team. And that drops it off of your main view here. If we look down toward the bottom, you'll see that there's a hidden teams area that can be expanded. So if I expand that hidden teams area, now I'll see, or now we'll all see all those teams that I've hidden because I'm not working on them right now. What I'm going to do is click this ellipses button again, and now the option is to show the team. So I'm going to show that again since that's the team we'll work on together today. And now I've got my MS Teams 224 team displayed here. So remember I told you that anytime you create a team, the general channel will be created along with it. On the general channel, which is where the team is going to collaborate, notice that there are these tabs along the top. The first tab is the post tab, and that's where most of our collaboration will happen. So right now, not much has happened here because it's a brand new team. But look at the options we've got here. We have an option to add more people. So if I click this, I'll have the option to add someone else to the team. And this looks just like the way that I added one to the team earlier. So that comes up here and I can choose again to make Josh a member or an owner. Another thing that I could do is create more channels. So right now we've got this general channel, but sometimes we might want to have an additional channel. What I'll do now is create a private channel. And you'll see there's a privacy setting here. So the default is standard. I'm going to change that to private and then click next. So it'll take just a few seconds, but it'll add that channel. It's going to give me also the option to add more people to this channel. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and skip that. And now we'll see the private channel that I just added, and we can see that it's locked, indicating that it's private. So that's one way that we can add more people and add more channels to an existing team. If we click on the ellipses here, we'll also see that there is an add channel option here. That'll open up that same window that we just used to add the channel, the private channel. There's also an option to add a member here. And there's another option where we can manage the team overall. So this will open up all of those team settings. Here, there are these different sections along the top. So in the member section, I can see the members of this team. So there's one that I added in the very beginning. I'm logged in as Marquee 360 user. And then if we expand the guest portion, we can see the guest of this team or the member. So from here, I could make a change. I could add Josh as an owner of the team. I could remove Josh from the team. And then I can also add more members to this team if I wanted to. The next thing that we'll see is...
sorry to interrupt you. We have a question from Sarah.
Thanks for bringing that up because I can't see those.
It's how about a channel for the team calendar? As I feel this might be very useful within a team, especially when they need to share and overlapping meetings, activities, so on.
Oh, yes, that is a great thing that you are able to do. and we could kind of explore what that looks like. I think one of these, the Adopt 365, has one of those calendar tabs or calendar channels. And then what you'll see on this channel, each channel can have different tabs along the top. The one that we were looking at a few minutes ago just had posts, files, and wiki. Notice that you can always add more here. So there are plenty to add in, but on this preset calendar one, there's already a shared calendar that's here. So all I would have to do is set up this calendar, and then we could start doing things to schedule our work. Another thing that we do at Marquee 360 a lot of times that helps with calendars is that we sync this with Project Online where there are different tasks. So we'll have a planner tab here, and it gives you different views. We can view this, the tasks for this project overlaid on a calendar, and then we can also sort these out based on due dates so that we can track work that's being completed. So there are a lot of really interesting options that you could use if you wanted to track things in more of that kind of calendar view. And it all depends on what works best for you and the team that you're working with. So I know that was kind of an open answer because there are so many possibilities, but did that help to answer the question? All right, I don't hear anything, so I'm going to trust that it did. But if you want to know more, please feel free to email us or ping us at any time. So
so thank you. As I have a few on my team who use Mac and they are unable to see Teams calendar in Outlook, only Microsoft Teams.
Okay, all right. So I think the next thing that we were going to do was look at this ellipses menu, and we were looking at managing the team. We had just talked about adding members and guests here, and then we also talked a little bit about the channels that we can add. So on this screen also from the ellipses and then manage team, we can see our channels here, and this is yet another place where you can add a channel. Okay. I'm not going to add another channel yet, but this is the same window that we saw when we added that private channel earlier. So part of what I want to show you while we're together today, and this is kind of in line with the timeline of creating teams. We've got teams that we've created, we added channels, we added members. We also want to make sure that we can collaborate with each other on that team. So one of the things that we'll want to do is use this post tab to collaborate. You can see here that I can start a new conversation here. And one of the things you can do is use the @ button to mention a person. So doing this, when I send this message, it will light up their activity button, kind of like what we saw at the beginning of this demonstration. We can also attach documents and share them with each other here. So there's an attach option. I'll just choose something quickly from my computer to upload. And then notice I can also respond with a meeting invite or with another attachment or a formatted message. If I format this message, we get all kinds of options here, similar to Outlook. I can insert emojis, GIFs, stickers, stream recordings. There are a lot of options here. Another thing that I can do is email the team. So if I have an email to send out to people that are on the team, one of the options you have is to copy the team or include the team on that email. So clicking on the ellipses, there's a get email address option, and that'll bring up a link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the email address. I have an email that's pre-written here. So nothing fancy, just an email with an attachment. I'm going to go ahead and send that. But what this does is it helps to involve the team in this email, all right? And it keeps a record of the email as well in Teams. So now this document is part of our files section here, and the email itself is part of that also. If we click over on files, we'll see that there's a folder created for email messages, and that creates automatically. And then also the attachments that we've shared in the conversations will display here. One last thing I want to show you on the Post tab is about meetings. We looked at the calendar earlier, but if you click on the Meet drop down here to schedule a meeting, we're doing this from within the team. So what it did is it automatically tagged this channel here. So I'm going to add, I'll add Juan as my meeting member. We'll schedule this meeting by just clicking send here. What that does is that meeting shows up on this posts tab. And what's great about this is that we can have a chat history before, during, and after the meeting that's saved in Teams. And then also, perhaps the best part of this is if we record this meeting, then anybody that wasn't in the meeting or even somebody that was in the meeting and needs a refresher can access that recording from right here in Teams. So that makes things pretty nice and makes it easy to interact with the team and the things that have happened with this team. As I mentioned earlier, there is this plus sign here. So for any channel, you can customize it and add apps that are going to work well for your team. So there are a lot that are popular to add. There's Microsoft Lists, which is getting more popular. There's also the tasks by To-Do and Planner, which I tend to use a lot for scheduling tasks and things like that, and also for that nice calendar overlay that's in there. And we'll have future webinars to talk more about those options. One thing I wanted to address, because this is a question that came up in a few of our previous webinars, was that people start to get a little bit nervous about the ease of creating teams, right? It's pretty easy to jump in here and create teams. And sometimes what concerns people is that we want to make sure that we're not overlapping our efforts with creating teams. So maybe I created this team here called MS-101 series, and then someone else on the team would create something similar, right? And we're overlapping our efforts there. One of the things that Marquee 360 has created is a governance app that can help you to centralize which teams are being created. And the way that works is that we would create a request here. You can specify who the owner of a team would be. And then you can also specify the members of that team. So let's say right now I'm just going to add one member. I can choose whether it's public or private. And then if there's a template that I want to use, I can set that up here. And these templates can be created by your organization. We can also enter in some dates and then some descriptive information like the team name. But what we'll see here at the end, at the bottom here, is a create request option. What that would do is submit this request to a team of approvers. They would have the option to approve or reject that team. And then I do a slide for that. They would have the option to approve, reject, or place that team on hold. But that way, instead of people going out and creating all of these teams, and we can kind of have some control about what teams are created and how they're created. So that gives us the ability also to have our own templates in place for those teams that are created. So I'm going to hand this back over to Juan, and also just want to let you know again, if you have questions now or later on, feel free to contact us.
There is one last question in the chat. Arthur is asking, is it possible to start directly a conversation for a channel?
Is it possible to directly start a conversation for one of the channels?
Yes.
Yes. Do you mean directly with one person or directly with the team overall?
I think with the team, yeah, directly in the channel, yeah.
Yes, I think what I normally do when I want to do that is I'll go to new conversation. Sometimes, especially if I need everybody's attention for something, if there's a document deadline coming up or something like that, I'll use that @mention feature, and you can mention the entire team. So if I type in here MS Teams, all right, there it is, MS Teams 224, what that'll do is, misspelling. When I send this, what it'll do is it'll alert everybody that's on this team. So for the people that are members of this team, Josh and Juan, and I think I added an admin, they all got a pop-up just now letting them know that there's a message here that they should pay attention to. And then of course there's room for anybody to respond and, you know, respond in various ways as well.
Thank you, Mia.
Sure. Any other questions while we're here? All right, well, I hope you found this demo helpful. And I think one has 2 more slides. I can show those here.
So thank you very much, Mia. And yes, so actually, if you have any questions, please, as Mia said, feel free to reach us out. I just wanted to share a bit more about the services that we offer in Market 360. We organize like a specific workshops for specific needs you may have, trainings, we work with implementation. Most of our partners work with different solutions that they might be interested in integrating with some teams. Since now all of us, we're working a lot more remotely. And we also have an amazing support team ready to help 24 hours 7. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach us out. And finally, we would like to share that we record this session. So I'm going to be sending by email the record, as well as a very short survey, just to ensure which are the most relevant topics for you, since, as Mia mentioned, we have a lot of webinars ready, and we're going to be sharing those based on your interests. So one more time, thank you very much for attending today. Very excited and having a nice day.
Thank you all.